Setting your business up for success. We are setting up an online business. And at some point, when creating an online internet business, you're going to have to ask yourself a really logical question. Because if you're in a web business, obviously, building websites comes with the territory. And this is a hang-up for a lot of people. This is a major obstacle. So you have to ask yourself eventually, are you going to learn HTML or are you not going to learn it? Are you going to depend on other people to do your web programming for you? Now, learning HTML is not what you think, okay? At least not for us. Some people have actually gone through classes and they know HTML like a second language, okay? They know how to format all of the coding. They know how to do frames and all that stuff. And let me tell you something. I have built personally over 450 websites over the last year, okay, by hand. And I don't know a lick of HTML. I know a little bit of, how to make something bold or how to make something italicized or something like that. But if you ask me to create a website starting with an HTML editor, which is like a text pad, and to sit there and program a site, I'd be clueless. All right? Yet, some of these sites that I've designed have been some of the best-selling sites online as far as for information products and e-commerce products. And I don't say this to brag, but I just say this to let you know that if you're thinking that programming is going to be an obstacle for you, or if you're thinking that knowing HTML is going to be an obstacle, there's ways around it. Okay? The trick is learning just enough to understand how to make changes and understanding just enough how to modify your website. Because if you know how to, for example, some of the editors that we're going to show you in a little bit are like Microsoft Word. I'm sure many of you have used Microsoft Word. And with the editor, if you want to make something bold, you just highlight the text and you click the B for bold. Or if you want to make something, you want to space something out, you can just move the cursor to the end of the line and press enter. Whereas in HTML, which is the language of the web, you would have to go in, you would have to put I believe, open alligator sign, BR, which means break, and then close alligator sign, and all that just means skip a line, okay? But when you press the enter on the keyboard in the HTML language, it automatically do that for you. So these editors make it really, really easy for you to create and capture your ideas in web format, okay? So this won't be an obstacle for you. Now, with that said, as you go along, you definitely want to pick up various pieces of HTML coding that you'll be using in the future. Like I said, I don't know HTML fluently, but I know enough now that I can modify and change things the way I want, go behind the scenes of a web page, and make customizations without having to go to an outsourcer or wait for some type of 24-hour turnaround for a webmaster to do it for me and get back to me. And that's what it's going to come down to. You learning just enough so that you can make your own changes on the fly, because this is going to be a trial and error process, building a website, building a web business. What you start with, I'm going to tell you, is not what you're going to finish with. Okay? And when you start with this site, if you have a change that you need to make, or there's a price that you need to change, or something just very simple, you want to have the ability to go and make that change instantly without having to type an email to your webmaster, wait for him to get back to you, then wait for him to deliver it within 24 hours. It makes it really, really easy. Now, if you do want to learn HTML, the good news for you is that you can pretty much pick up on all the elements that you would need in a weekend. I'm serious. This isn't something that you have to go and study and take classes for before you start your first site. Because let me tell you, if you take action, that's more important than you sitting back studying HTML for 3 months. Any of the HTML for dummy books or anything like that, this course isn't going to teach you HTML. It would be, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't be doing you justice of your time, because you can go and schedule that out as you see fit. And quite honestly, everybody starts at a different level. Some of you already are familiar with HTML. Some of you may already know HTML, JavaScript, and everything else under the sun. Okay, so it's a matter of your own personal knowledge, your own personal preference. And if you do want to go the route and learn this language, the point is that it's not going to be difficult. All right, and a lot of the sites that are successful today don't start out that way. So if you're worried about making it perfect, the very first time you go out, it's not necessary, because it's going, like I said, it's going to be a trial and error, and I guarantee you, the site you start with will not be the site that you finish with come, a year from now. To show you what I'm talking about, let's take a look at the Wayback Machine. Wayback Machine is a website that you can go to and see how sites have changed over the years. All right, you can see how they are now and how they were, if you want, 10 years ago. This site is Wayback, WAYBACK Machine, MACHINE.org. All right, so if you go to Wayback Machine, and you can see here, we're looking at ESPN, okay? ESPN, they have, this is from, what year was this? This is back in 1999. Look at how their site looked, okay? They just got it up there. They really weren't sure of their web presence. There's not much design to it. A lot of poor formatting. I'm sure this wasn't their best design guy on the team at the time, and it was just a basic sports news site. It's clean, but Wayback Machine will show you how they developed since then. They show you here at the start of 2000, they added a little bit more of a design element to it with this logo here, and still a little crowded looking, and this is typical of the sites of its time. But for a major news, if a major news or sports website today were to come out with a site like this, some people would think something's wrong. But this is back in 2000, 1999, 2000, and it just, they're building on it, but just to show you how the progression of a design of a site over time. Now you look in 2002, they've just totally redone the design, and they added more of design up here with their logo. They've taken off the one of the columns, and things still looking jumbled together, but they got more of a feel for what they were trying to do with the site. And it looks like they brought in more graphical elements as well. 2003, what do you know? They changed the design again. All right, and now they brought the logo back into the header here with the categories at the top. They have more advertising now, so the site must be picking up in traffic. And it looks like it's just coming together now. Like they're getting a feel for their design. Maybe they brought on a new design team, and it's becoming more of a cohesive site. Now you can tell they really like this design, and as being one of their most polished, because they stuck with it for the next 2 years, I believe, next 2 or 3 years. Then in 2006, they amped it up a little more and got more of the TV shows, ESPN's actual logo. They got it up there into the header, looking like it does on the actual Sports Center and the shows that people are familiar with in the market. And they broke the site down to a 3-column display. And we'll talk about layouts and things like that, but now you can see there's 1, 2, 3, and there's a lot more media. Media became very accessible. People started getting high-speed internets and things like that. So now video became prominent on the web, and they needed space for video on websites. And we'll also show you the power of video as well to use for your business. But now video is almost a standard. Whereas, through 2005 and up, video was just becoming a dominating force because the bandwidth was being developed to support it. Cable companies were coming out with packages to support it. So the site reflects the changes here. All right. Just like your site that you're going to have built, that you're going to build, the technology you build it with today, if you're thinking, okay, this is it, I'm done. Well, in 5 years, who knows what's going to be, what's going to be at your disposal, what the trend will be with video or imaging. For all you know, they could have 3D immersive video, and then that's a common technology that everybody uses on websites. And maybe that's what you're going to incorporate at that time. All right. Then you can see in early 2010, they just completely revamped everything and just cranked it up fully. All right. And they have a total multimedia displays here. And this is what I mean. So point is, like I said, don't put up any obstacles. Your product is going to be a work in progress. All right. Even the best of, we're looking at a major company like ESPN started with if you can remember with that first site I showed you, and it was pretty rough. That's a multi-million-dollar company, but they had the content. The content is what people are looking for. The content and the value that you're offering. As you make money, you'll put that back into your business, just like we showed you in the when we were talking about reinvesting into your business and putting, even if you put $1,000 every 2 months back into the business, well, that's where that money goes. It goes into your development, goes into your delivery mechanisms, the websites, all that stuff, and your site will reflect it. It'll build itself. You don't have to come out of pocket for any of that. All right. So the 3 main options for getting your site created are number 1, have a webmaster do everything for you. Okay. You can just say, forget it. I'm not doing any of it. I don't want to touch it. I just want this guy to do it and have it be done. And that's fine. Everybody's going to start at a different spot. Some of you are starting with no finances or very little finances. Some of you have raised money. Some of you have a little bankroll on the side and you want to, get this thing rolling as quickly as possible, as smooth as possible, and as hands-free as possible. And if that's the case, then you may want to have a webmaster do it for you. Also, if you have complicated tasks, complicated needs, hiring a webmaster makes sense too, because the time that it would take you to learn how to do what you really want to do for something complicated could just as easily have been done in a weekend by a webmaster, and you would pay a lot less than you would expect. The next approach would be to have a web designer create the shell for you. Okay? And this is going to be you getting a person who is more of a graphic expert to design the site for you, sort of the shell. All right? So they're going to give you a really high polished product, and then you're going to fill in the white space. So you'll fill in your content or your sales letter or your store or whatever it is, but they would have done the actual design for you. And this is a great way to go for people who kind of in between. They want to get their hands dirty a little bit with HTML, and they picked up a little bit of coding here and there, but they're not good designers. Just because you learn HTML doesn't mean you're going to know how to design a great site. And 75% of the site is design. Okay? And as you saw with ESPN, they probably had the same amount of content, just minus the video back in 1999. But because of the design improvements, it looked like the value of the site was 10 times more, like they were getting 10 times more than what was actually there, because it's probably the same amount of work went into the same stories, the same reporting, just presented in a way that was more valuable. I had a higher perceived value. So if you have somebody take care of that and give you the higher perceived value, then you can go ahead and apply and fill in your content. And of course, the cheapest route would be for you to do it yourself. Okay, this is you just taking on everything yourself, whether that's doing the design, or maybe you start from a template and you learn a little HTML and you get things hooked up and you get your order buttons together, and it's not complicated. I mean, if you put a little time into it, you can do it yourself, as long as you don't need anything drastically complicated. And even so, there's scripts and solutions and programs that'll help you even through the most complicated of web tasks. So it's not an unmanageable obstacle, I should say. The advantage to this is that it gives you complete control. Okay, so you want to make a change to your header, or you want to change your pricing. You've decided not to sell your main product at $97 and you want to sell it for $95, $99, or $95, whatever. You can just go in and make that change without having to submit a ticket. Okay? Submitting tickets can get really old really quick, and that's just you going to your webmaster's help desk and or sending him an email and then having to wait, and then it makes you not want to make changes because you have to go through that whole waiting process. So doing it yourself does have those advantages. So what we'll do now is go through each one of these and make sure that you, if you're going to do these, any one of these, that you know the right way to go about it, because every webmaster isn't the same. The process to hiring a webmaster is critical, because if you do that wrong, you get the wrong guy, and it's going to be a disaster from the start. Same thing with hiring a web designer, and there's some tips I'm going to give you if you want to go the route of doing it yourself. All right. So let's take a look at first of everything you would need to do and everything you need to look for in hiring a webmaster.